Back to the Future predicted flying cars were going to be a thing by 2015.
Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
And unless I've been living under a rock, cars still look like they're driving pretty normally to me. Today though, I'm going to change this. Meet Jim, my RC car. Ever since Jim was just a little truck, he's always dreamed of flying off into the stunning sunset. Unfortunately, he's got one massive problem standing in his way.
What is it, Brody?
He can't damn well fly. So in this video, I'm going to show you my attempt at building a project like this, the massive challenge that I face while trying, and most importantly, if we can make Jim's dream come true. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of turning Jim into a high flyer, I first need to show you how this chocolate chip cookie here is going to give me, and possibly you too, the best chance to make a ridiculous idea into a flying success. Here, so this is what our chocolate chip cookie is made up of. We've got sugar, eggs, butter, baking soda, chocolate chips, and flour. Now, I know what you're thinking, how on earth does a chocolate chip cookie recipe have anything to do with building a flying car? Trust me, I'd be asking the exact same thing if I hadn't spent all of last night dreaming up this script. So let's get into it, starting with the sugar. Sugar makes the cookie sweet, right? Think of it like the camera on your FPV drone. Without it, sure, the drone does fly, but you're missing out on the sweet view. Next up, the eggs. They bind everything together in the cookie, just like your receiver connects all the parts of your drone together. It makes sure when you tell your drone to zip left, it doesn't end up flopping right. Then we have the butter. This magical ingredient is in control of just how much or how little your cookies are going to spread out. In drone land, that's your flight controller. It decides whether your flight is going to be smooth sailing or a bumpy ride. We're aiming for something as close to buttery smoothness as possible. Now, don't forget the baking soda. Without it, cookies are just sad, flat discs. It's literally the lift-off magic ingredient, kind of like your ESCs giving your motors that kick to get up and go. No baking soda, no rise. No ESCs, no flight. Next are those delicious chocolate chips, which are non-negotiables. No chips, no chocolate chip cookie, right? That's your motors in the drone world. No motors and all you've got is a fancy paperweight. Finally, the flour, the base of it all. Just as flour holds your cookie together, the frame is what keeps your drone in one piece. But here's where it gets fun. While for the most part you can't swap out these other ingredients without ruining the cookie, you can change the flour for a different vibe. Similarly, swapping out a drone frame for an RC car, well, that's not breaking the rules, it's just rewriting them. It's about using what you've got in a new way to bring a wild idea to life. Alright, now that we've got our recipe for success and hopefully some nice tasting cookies, it's time to get Jim some upgrades. Also, speaking of tasty cookies, it's worth mentioning that every fortnight my FPV newsletter gets sent out some sweet exclusive content, just a little extra something for you to chew on. Anyway, back to it. While everything should theoretically work, there's a huge challenge in my way. Up until now, I've only ever built standard FPV drones with the usual parts and frames. That doesn't exactly fill me up with confidence for a wild project like this where I have to figure things out for myself. So, what else was there for me to do? Reach out for some expert advice? Well, that's not exactly my style. I'm more of a dive in, figure it out as I go, break some stuff sort of guy. And dive in, I did. Just an hour later, I had something that looked, well, let's just call it a prototype. This is looking good right now. Check that out. We've got like most of it mounted in there, just minus the O3, which is over here. So this little guy, I'm gonna stick onto the seat, and then we can take this pretty much for a little test drive and see if the FPV system's working. That is so exciting. Oh my God. Okay. This is the moment of truth. Hopefully everything works. If it doesn't, I haven't put too much time into it yet. Okay, here we go, here we go. Yes, let's go. Oh my gosh. This is sick. Off-roading in the Jimny. Up until this point, everything had been going surprisingly smooth, almost suspiciously so. But as luck would have it, right on cue, my first real obstacle decided to make an entrance. Remember when I mentioned the whole thing about a chocolate chip cookie not being a chocolate chip cookie without the chips? Well, that's where I found myself with this project. What I had was essentially an RC car dressed up with some extra flair, but far from the drone I had actually envisioned. To truly transform my build, it was time to incorporate the crucial element, the motors. Okay, so you see this lovely flexy piece of aluminium here? Yeah, well, this here is what I was going to use for the arms originally. I was going to cut this into about half, create an X, and kind of try and use this for the arms. I ran this idea past my good friend Julius, who is much more of an expert on these sorts of things than I am. He told me it was a terrible idea, so gotten myself 4 7-inch arms. These are for the TBS Source 1. Ideally, I should be able to put these onto this somehow, and these are going to be way more rigid, provide a much more solid support than this. This approach left me scratching my head about, how to firmly attach the arms to the truck, but staying true to my usual improvisational style, I skipped the measuring tape and just kinda went for it. Integrating the arms wasn't just about strapping them on and hoping for the best though. I had to consider the sheer power that the 7-inch motor and prop combo was gonna put out and make sure it wasn't just gonna hit the sides or flex too much. The solution ended up being more simple than I thought it would be though. With a bit of trial and error, the arms were secured with 2 long stack screws, threaded through holes that I drilled out and locked in with nuts. It was a true moment of relief as I attached the first arm and felt that there was very little flex in it. It's not often I actually get things right first try.
Oh my goodness, this is insanity!
Okay, so before we see if Jim is actually going to get to live his dream, I need to show you the one secret that is going to be key to Jim's success. Picture this, right? You're diving into your project, but you skip the whole wire organization thing, gloss over making those solder joints solid, and don't quite secure the flight controller at all. Yeah, I've been down that road, and believe it or not, flying a terribly put drone together, well, it's like baking unmixed cookie dough. If you skip the mixing stage, you've got a mess, not a masterpiece. It's the same with building a drone. By neglecting to mix all of the components together properly, like ensuring a tidy setup and solid connections, you're setting yourself up for a bit of a letdown. That's exactly why, with Jim, I rolled up my sleeves, as much as I really could, and tried to get it right from the get-go. All the wires were soldered with care, ensuring each connection was as strong as this morning's coffee. I made sure the flight controller wasn't going anywhere, locking it down tight, and that every piece found its perfect spot too. As a bit of a finishing touch, I decided to mount precise little holes for the wires to thread through, keeping everything tidy inside and out. Unfortunately, in pursuit of my perfection, I might have turned the studio into a bit of a makeshift smokehouse that I literally couldn't breathe in. Not the highlight of my drone building career, but the final look. Okay, so now that you've seen all the upgrades that Jim's got, it's time to see if he's actually able to make his dream come to reality. So we've got the sunset, we've got Jim, and it's time to see if we can make Jim fly. Arming in 3, 2, 1. Jim is flying off into the sunset. Jim has flown! Oh, the voice break there. Even though Jim's story ended on a high note, it's worth mentioning that not all of my drone adventures have been smooth flying. Just like a cookie that falls apart because it's missing eggs, I've had my fair share of projects that just didn't hold together no matter how much I hoped they would. This next video right here though is for you to watch, as it contains the essential recipe for building an FPV drone from scratch, and it tackles the common mistakes beginners make that drain the money out of their bank accounts. We'll see you over there.